One of the biggest newspapers in America, the New York Times, has been forced on the defensive. It follows a storm of allegations it was biased in favor of Hillary Clinton during the election. The outlet even published an open letter promising to, quote, rededicate themselves to unbiased reporting. However, not everyone's buying it.
After Trump's victory, the New York Times has received numerous complaints about the coverage of this year's election. Its readers claiming they feel cheated, misled, and outright lied to. The backlash has even prompted the newspaper to publish an open letter. In it, the NYT editors have tried to grasp what might have led them to, quote, underestimate the president-elect's support among voters. With that in mind, they also vowed to stick to the fundamental mission of journalism, to report news without bias and reflect all political perspective. Yet, there is one line that's managed to enrage even more readers, defying the sheer purpose of the letter. We believe we reported on both candidates fairly during the presidential campaign.
You were extremely biased towards Hillary Clinton, and you made the mistake of thinking people could not see through your charade.
The reporting was disgraceful, especially at the New York Times.
This campaign cycle, your paper might as well have had an office in the Clinton headquarters.
You got it wrong because you developed very early on a narrative that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and you stuck to it myopically and stubbornly in the face of any evidence to the contrary.
It didn't take long for the new US president to react to the controversy. On Twitter, Donald Trump expressed his doubts about the New York Times' promise to dedicate itself to unbiased coverage in the future. The newspaper made another swing at the president-elect, claiming he said Washington's allies should obtain nuclear weapons to defend themselves without American aid. But Trump fought back. So, does Trump have a point?
Let me explain. Somebody hits us with an
ISIS.
You wouldn't fight back with an...
No, to drop a nuclear weapon to a community of people
you can't say, first of all, you don't want to say take everything off the table.
No, just
you're
nuclear.
A bad negotiator if you do
Just
that.
nuclear.
Look, nuclear should be off the table.
We're better off if Japan protects itself against this maniac in North Korea. We're better off, frankly, if South Korea is going to start to protect itself.
Would you be fine with them having nuclear weapons?
No, not nuclear weapons, but they have to protect themselves, or they have to pay us. They're going to start having them, or we have to get rid of them entirely.
Despite several attempts made by Donald Trump to explain his stance on nuclear weapons, seems like the NYT decided to stick to the good old scaremongering rhetoric.
And John Hadger, co-chair of the American Mideast Coalition for Trump, believes the paper's basically admitting that it didn't give fair coverage to Clinton's rival.
The paper was very biased, very pro-Hillary Clinton. I read the paper occasionally. And I've seen some of the clips. Mr. Trump did not get fair coverage whatsoever in the New York Times. And really, it's a tacit admission by Arthur Sulzberger, the publisher, that they did not give it fair coverage. Why else would he put this letter in? Let me quote, did Donald J. Trump's unconventionality lead to us to underestimate his support among American voters? Well, of course, absolutely. He's asking and answering the same question. That's why they released this letter to say basically that we're going to try to be more balanced going forward because really the mainstream media, through the election to Clinton, they thought for sure she would win, and they were really taken aback by her loss.
Meanwhile, protesters are continuing to hold rallies against the president-elect. The demonstrations first kicked off on election night. Then on Sunday, protesters formed a human chain around a lake in the city of Oakland, California. RT's Caleb Mopan asked people about their motivation.
A lot of Hillary Clinton supporters have described those who voted for Donald Trump in places like Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan as racist, sexist, homophobic, and intolerant. But we've noticed that there's quite a bit of intolerance coming from those protesting. A lot of them describe people in these states voted for Trump in kind of derogatory ways and speak of them as if their beliefs are somehow illegitimate. Can you describe a Trump supporter in one word?
A Trump supporter.
Misguided.
Chaos.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Uneducated.
Is there something wrong with the American democratic system?
I think it's time to reform the Electoral College. I think unless the electoral voters actually choose to represent the people in this election, then it's time to reform it.
Do you think that this election was a good example of U.S. democracy in action?
No. It's called not right.
It is the system, the way it's set up, but it just doesn't seem right, so.
I believe it's outdated, the whole system.
You know, I wouldn't say it's a true democracy.
It should be the popular vote. They should do away with electoral college.
The fact that we have an electoral college.
Well, it's worked so well for 200 years. Why chuck it now?
This is the time. This is the opportunity.
Unfortunately, more than once, where the electoral college has not worked well at all.
So you don't like the constitutional electoral system?
The electoral system? No, I don't. We don't need it anymore.
So the USA says it has the best democratic system in the world, and it's constantly actually attacking countries, invading them, putting sanctions on them for not being democratic enough. Is the U.S. democratic system really the best?
I can't say I know enough about democracy to tell you that we're the best.
Is the USA really in a position to be telling other countries how to run their elections?
I think that America has a responsibility, being a superpower, having the wealth and privilege and influence that we do. There are many things that are really wonderful about America. I think what happened here today is one of those things.